AITA for canceling our vacation after he made fun of my body in front of friends. I'm a 26F and my now ex-boyfriend Mark is 28M. We were together for just over 3 years. This story is about a vacation that never happened, a comment that wouldn't leave my head, and a moment that cracked something I don't think can be fixed. Mark and I met in our early 20s through mutual friends. He was charming, funny, and confident in a way that made people gravitate toward him. I was more reserved, the kind of person who listens more than talks in group settings. He made me feel chosen, like I was special. For the first year, things were great. We traveled locally, binge-watched shows, talked about moving in together someday. He was affectionate in private, constantly touching my hand or waist, calling me beautiful. But there were little comments. Ones I brushed off. "You look amazing if you toned up a bit. I like you better in looser clothes." He'd always say it with a laugh. And if I got quiet, he'd tell me I was being sensitive. I'm not overweight, but I've always had curves. I used to struggle with body image in my teens, and it took me years to feel comfortable wearing sleeveless tops or swimsuits. Mark knew this. I told him early on. He said, "I'd never make you feel bad about your body." I believed him. Earlier this year, Mark suggested we take a week-long vacation together. A beach destination. He framed it as a reset, time away from work, stress, and routine. He even suggested inviting a few friends for part of it, which I hesitated about but eventually agreed to. The group ended up being Mark and me, his best friend Jake and Jake's girlfriend, another couple from his friend group. We split costs evenly. I paid my share up front. I was nervous about the beach aspect, but I was also excited. I bought a swimsuit I actually felt good in, not tiny, not super modest, just comfortable. I thought this trip would bring us closer. About 2 weeks before the trip, we had a small get-together at Jake's place. Drinks, music, casual conversation. Everyone was relaxed. At some point, the vacation came up. Jake joked about getting beach bod ready, and everyone laughed. Then Mark looked at me. He smiled, that familiar teasing smile, and said, "Yeah, well, I told her she's got a little work to do before she hits the beach." The room went quiet for just a second. I laughed awkwardly, waiting for him to clarify it was a joke. He didn't. Instead, Jake laughed. My face felt hot. I said, "What does that mean?" Mark shrugged and said, "Relax. I'm kidding. You know I'm just honest." I didn't say anything after that. I felt stupid, exposed, like suddenly everyone was looking at my body instead of me. I spent the rest of the night quiet. On the drive home, I told him that comment hurt me. I explained why, calmly. I said it made me feel embarrassed and insecure, especially in front of his friends. He sighed and said, "You're blowing this way out of proportion." Then he added, "If you're that insecure, maybe that's something you need to work on." That sentence stayed with me. I tried to move past it, but I couldn't. Every time I looked at the swimsuit I bought, I heard his voice. Every time the vacation came up, I felt anxious instead of excited. I asked him again, days later, if he understood why I was hurt. He said, "I already apologized." He hadn't. He'd said, "Sorry you took it that way." Then he told me I was making the trip a negative thing, and that his friends were probably joking about it by now. That's when something in me snapped. 3 days later, I told him I didn't want to go anymore. I said I didn't feel comfortable spending a week in a swimsuit around people who'd heard my boyfriend make jokes about my body, especially when he didn't see anything wrong with it. He stared at me like I'd insulted him. Then he said, "So, you're really going to cancel a whole vacation because of one joke?" I told him that it wasn't one joke. It was a pattern. He accused me of being dramatic, selfish, and ruining things for everyone. He reminded me that money was already spent, that his friends would think I was unstable. I told him I needed space. He told me I was acting like a victim. Where I'm at now, I canceled my portion. I took the loss on some of the money. He still went without me. We haven't officially broken up yet, but we barely talk. He's told mutual friends that I freaked out over nothing. Some of them agree with him. A couple have reached out privately to say they thought his comment was out of line. I'm sitting here wondering if I threw away a 3-year relationship over one bad moment, or if I finally listened to the part of me that's been uncomfortable for a long time. So, AITA, for canceling the vacation after he made fun of my body in front of his friends? Update. I didn't expect to update so soon, but a lot happened emotionally in a very short amount of time. I also didn't expect the response my post got. I thought maybe people would tell me I was overreacting, dramatic, or sabotaging my own relationship. Instead, I spent hours staring at my phone, refreshing comments, feeling something strange settle in my chest. Relief. I posted late at night, mostly because I couldn't sleep. By morning, there were hundreds of comments. I read every single one, even the harsh ones, especially the harsh ones. The overwhelming verdict was NTA. One comment stuck with me. It's not about the vacation. It's about a man who feels comfortable embarrassing you and then punishing you for being hurt. Another said, if he loved you, your insecurity wouldn't be a punchline. I had to put my phone down after that one. I felt nauseous, like someone had reached into my chest and squeezed something that had been quietly aching for a long time. I decided to talk to my friends, not mutual friends, but my friends. The ones who'd known me before Mark. I met up with my best friend Sarah first. I hadn't told her everything before, mostly because I didn't want her to hate him. I told her about the comment, about the dismissal. She didn't interrupt me once. When I finished, she said quietly, I've hated the way he talks to you for a long time. I just didn't think you were ready to hear that. That hurt more than I expected. She reminded me of things I'd forgotten. Times I changed outfits because Mark joked. Times I stayed quiet in group settings because he talked over me. Times I defended him by saying, he doesn't mean it like that. She asked me something that hit hard. When was the last time you felt fully comfortable being yourself around him? I couldn't answer. Mark didn't text me much while he was gone. A couple of short messages. We got here. Everyone keeps asking where you are. You could have handled this better. No apology. No checking in. No curiosity about how I was feeling. And the more time passed, the angrier I became. At first, I was just hurt. Now I was pissed. I realized that he wasn't missing me. He was annoyed I wasn't there to smooth things over, to absorb discomfort, to make things easier for him. His dismissal of my feelings was anew. I just couldn't ignore it anymore. Instead of crying, I started feeling clear. Every time my phone buzzed, and it wasn't him asking how I was, that clarity sharpened. I replayed our conversations in my head, but this time without defending him. When I imagined confronting him, I didn't imagine apologizing anymore. I imagined saying, I'm done. And the thought didn't terrify me the way it used to. On Thursday, my friends convinced me to get out of the house. They planned a day at a local amusement park, something silly, loud, and joyful. I almost canceled. I hadn't been sleeping well. My mind was heavy. But I went. I laughed on a stupid spinning ride, screaming with my hands in the air. I didn't think about how I looked. I didn't suck in my stomach. I didn't adjust my clothes. No one commented on my body. No one joked. No one made me feel like I was being evaluated. At one point, Sarah took a photo of me mid-laugh. Normally, I'd ask her to delete it. This time, I didn't. That night, I lay in bed and made a decision I'd been circling for years. I wasn't going to beg Mark to understand me anymore. I didn't want to be with someone who made me feel small and then blamed me for noticing. I didn't text him. I didn't call him. I waited. Over the next few days, I prepared myself, quietly, mentally. I wrote down what I wanted to say. I rewrote it. Then I simplified it. I didn't want to fight. I didn't want to convince him. I just wanted out. Where things stand now. Mark comes back tomorrow. He texted earlier. We'll talk when I get back. And for the first time, that message didn't make my stomach drop. It made me calm. I know what I'm going to do. Update. Mark came back. I knew the exact time his flight landed because he texted me when he got in the car. I didn't respond right away. I was sitting on my bed, fully dressed, shoes on, heart steady in a way that surprised me. I wasn't shaking. I was ready. He came into the apartment like nothing had changed, dropped his bag, looked tired, annoyed more than anything. His first words weren't, "I missed you." They were, "So, are we done with the drama now?" That sentence alone almost made me laugh, not because it was funny, but because it confirmed everything. Still, I did what I promised myself I would do. I gave him one last chance, not to save the relationship but to solidify why I was leaving. I sat across from him at the kitchen table. I kept my voice calm. I said, "I need to know if you actually understand why I was upset." He rolled his eyes. I continued anyway. "Not why you think I was upset. Why I was." He leaned back in his chair and said, "You were embarrassed. I get it, but you took it too personally." I nodded slowly. Then I asked the second question, the one that mattered. "Do you think you owe me an apology?" He paused, long enough to make it feel intentional. Then he said, "I already said sorry. But honestly, if you can't handle jokes, that's not on me." There it was. But I needed one more thing. I asked, very quietly, "If the roles were reversed, if I made a joke about your body in front of my friends, would that be okay?" He smirked and said, "That's different. Guys don't get sensitive about that stuff." Something inside me went completely still. Then he added almost casually, "Besides, it's not like I lied." That was it. No yelling, just clarity. I stood up. I told him, "I'm done. I don't want to be with someone who thinks hurting me is honesty." He blinked, like his brain needed a second to catch up. Then he laughed and said, "You're being emotional. You'll cool off." I grabbed my bag. He followed me to the door, still confident. "You always come back." I turned around for the first time and said, "That's why this time I won't." Then I left. What Mark didn't expect was that I didn't disappear quietly. Before he could spin the story, I told people. I told my friends. I told mutual friends. I told the people who mattered. I didn't insult him. I didn't exaggerate. I just explained why I left. And for the first time, I didn't protect his image at the cost of my own. About a week later, I got a message from Jake's girlfriend. She said she'd heard what happened and wanted me to know she thought I did the right thing. She said she couldn't imagine being treated like that and that Mark was out of line. I stared at the message for a long time. Then I responded. I told her the truth. I said, "I appreciate that. But just so you know," Jake laughed when Mark made that comment. There was a pause. I asked her one simple question. "Are you okay being with someone who laughs when another woman is humiliated?" She didn't reply right away. 2 days later, Jake called Mark furious. Apparently, they broke up. Jake blamed me. He sent me an angry message saying I'd ruined everything and that I should mind my own business. I didn't respond. I was sitting on my couch, phone in my hand, laughing quietly, not out of cruelty, but out of something that felt like justice. Not revenge. Release. Where I am now. Mark hasn't reached out since. I don't miss him. I miss the version of myself I almost forgot, and I'm finally getting her back. Update. I didn't plan to expose Mark. That's something I want to make very clear. I didn't post screenshots. I didn't rant online. I didn't try to turn people against him. What I did was something much quieter and much more effective. I told the truth. And the truth had momentum. At first, it was small conversations. One-on-one talks. Friends asking, "What happened?" And me answering honestly. I'd say something like, "He made a comment about my body in front of his friends. When I told him it hurt me, he said he was just being honest and that my reaction was the real problem." What shocked me most wasn't that people believed me. It was that they already knew on some level. Mark's reputation starts cracking. Mark had always relied on a specific image. Brutally honest. No filter. Says what everyone's thinking. But once people started reframing that as rude, dismissive, and mean, it stopped being charming. Women started keeping their distance, not dramatically, just instinctively. One friend pulled me aside later and told me. A few of the guys stopped inviting him out because their girlfriends didn't like how he talked about women. Another said, "No one wants to bring their girlfriend around someone who thinks humiliation is honesty." Mark didn't lose everyone overnight, but the circle around him shrank. Meanwhile, my life kept moving. While all this was happening, something unexpected happened to me. I met someone new. Not in a dramatic, whirlwind way. Just natural. He was a mutual friend I'd known casually for years. We started talking more after a group hangout. Coffee turned into walks. Walks turned into long conversations. I never once felt like I had to perform. I noticed it in small moments. Wearing something without thinking twice. Laughing without checking reactions. Sharing opinions without being interrupted. When he complimented me, it wasn't about what I could fix. It was just kind. And that scared me a little because it showed me how low my bar had been before. That's when Mark started reaching out. At first, it was short messages. "I've been thinking." Then longer ones. I didn't realize how things came across. Then apologies. Real apologies, at least on the surface. He said things like, "I'm sorry if I hurt you. I didn't mean it that way. I miss what we had." I read them. And then I laughed. Not out loud, just that quiet, disbelieving laugh you do when you realize something no longer has power over you. The timing told me everything. He apologized when people stopped laughing. When women stopped engaging. When his image started costing him something. That's not growth. That's damage control. I didn't respond. Where things stand, Mark is still trying to reframe himself. Still insisting he's just honest. Still confused about why honesty keeps isolating him. And me? I'm not angry anymore. I'm not trying to prove anything. I'm just better. Update. The person I started seeing didn't rush me into anything. We moved slowly, intentionally, almost cautiously. He never asked me to change. Never commented on my body like it was something to be improved. He liked me as I was. What surprised me the most was how natural affection felt with him. He didn't hesitate to hold my hand in public. Didn't pull away from hugs. Didn't act like touching me was conditional or earned. When I had bad days, the kind where old insecurities creep back in, he noticed. He'd sit with me, distract me, make me laugh, or just stay close until the heaviness passed. Sometimes he'd kiss my forehead, hug me tightly, or hold my hand like it was the most natural thing in the world. And slowly, without realizing it, I stopped obsessing over my body. I felt admired, not evaluated. That's when Mark's messages changed. They weren't casual anymore. They were desperate. Long apologies. Detailed ones. Messages about growth, regret, therapy, reflection. He asked for one last chance, again and again. I ignored most of them. But the constant attempts wore me down, not emotionally, just mentally. So I agreed to one thing. A phone call. 5 minutes. Nothing more. No meeting. No negotiation. When the call started, he didn't waste time. He apologized again. Said he'd changed. Said he finally understood. Said he'd do anything differently now. I let him finish. Then I said calmly, "You need to stop contacting me. There is no chance left between us." There was silence. Then he tried to persuade me. He said things about history, about memories, about how no one would understand me the way he did. That's when I heard the door open behind me. My boyfriend walked into the room and asked casually what I was doing. I said, "I'm on a call." Before I could even finish saying who I was on a call with, he leaned down and kissed me. On the other end of the phone, Mark froze. Then he raised his voice, asking what was happening. I pulled the phone away slightly and said clearly, "I'm busy. Don't call me again." And I ended the call. Later that night, I sent Mark one last message. "I'm with someone else. I'm happy. Don't contact me again. It's better for both of us." Then I blocked him. Where I am now, I'm not angry anymore. I'm learning what it feels like to be loved without conditions. And I finally understand something I didn't before. Love should never make you question your worth.